Hello chess friends and welcome to Yazadov's chess channel and welcome to our series opening traps and miniatures in chess. So in this series I'm going to show you some common traps that you can use in order to win games very easily, in order to win games very effectively. And today I decided to show you a really cool trap which can happen in the King's Indian defense. We are playing this trap from Black's perspective, so if you're familiar with my YouTube chess channel then you know that I've covered this King's Indian defense with so many sidelines, with so many variations of the King's Indian. So if you have troubles maybe to play against d4, check it out. So let's see this trap. It's really a common trap. I played this trap at least 10 times. 2 times I played it in regular games, so my opponent was around 2100 rated, so still a good player, I think. So it's really a common trap, as I said. Because this trap basically happens when your opponent gets greedy. Most of the times in chess, players get greedy. Grabbing one pawn is sometimes a suicide mission, and in this game, in this opening trap, you see that grabbing a pawn is really deadly for white because the King's Indian has really this great tactical idea. So let's check out this common trap. d4 is white's opening after knight to f6, c4, g6, the King's Indian, knight to c3, bishop to g7, e4, d6 after knight to f3. This is still common theory. We play castling, and now bishop to e2. We have e5, the orthodox or the classical line. Basically, white decides now what to do. He can go d5 immediately into the Petrosian system, but if your opponent chooses to play the kingside castling, then this natural way is to proceed here with the move knight to c6. And now comes the move d5 after knight to e7. I've explained it many times in my videos and also in this King's Indian series that now we have the so-called block pawn structure in the center, so it means black will try the attack where our pawns are aiming, so it means here on the king side. On the other hand, white will coordinate the attack here on the queen side because the pawns are of course aiming with some potential b4 c5 preparations. So in order to make something happen here, knight to e1 is the main line of the orthodox or classical line, and now we have to play this move knight to d7, which is our preparation to attack the king side. So as I said, we are directing here on this side, so that's why this knight to d7 is a preparation to finally push the pawn on f5. Your opponent in this orthodox or classical line will play the move bishop to e3. We have f5, f3. It's still common theory, so this games were played many times, even in top grandmaster level. I've seen also Hikaru Nakamura crushing Wesley So we're talking about 227 plus rated players, so this is still common theory, as I said. f4 attacking the bishop, and now bishop to f2. Now we have really a blocked pawn structure, even further blocked pawn structure, and we should simply proceed here to attack with the move g5 and now knight to d3. Still common theory. Now white is preparing also the queenside attack with potential c5 moves. Now the natural move is knight to g6, improving the position of the knight. The main idea of the King's Indian is to get our knights here on the king side and try our h5 g4 pawn breakthroughs, maybe to crack the position in front of white's king. So in the game c5 can be played, but now knight to f6 and now c takes d6. We have c takes d6, and now comes the critical moment of this trap. Here your opponent can play the move knight to b5. This is a tricky move because it seems now that your pawn is hanging, and one of the ideas of this opposite side attack games, as we have, as I mentioned, this opposite side attack game, white is attacking the queen side, we are attacking the king side. The problem is that you don't want to lose tempos, or another thing that you don't want to do is weaken the pawn structure on that side where you're weaker. So it means we don't want to play something like b6, a6. We don't want to do that because it weakens further the pawn structure, and I guarantee you white will be simply faster in that opposite side attack. So we have to be careful here. So my recommendation is not to push the pawn on a6 or b6. Here my recommendation is to continue to push here on g4. If your opponent, for instance, plays f takes e4, f takes g4, then the problem is that this e4 pawn is hanging, so we could simply take here knight takes e4, and I can guarantee you have a comfortable game because your opponent will have to play something like bishop to f3. Still we can play something like knight to f6, and now our main idea is to rely on our pawn central control. So that's why in the trap, your opponent after the move g4 could go here bishop takes a7. That's not a possibility for white, as this loses immediately. We have the opportunity to play rook takes a7. After knight takes a7, the problem is queen to b6 will happen and you lose the knight. And also I can guarantee you, even if you have given up two minor pieces, the rook for two minor pieces, this is a comfortable game, as white has this star scroll problem in front of the king. Still we have the possibility to close even further the position with the move g3 and similar ideas. So one of the other ideas that can happen is if your opponent takes the pawn with the move knight takes a7. Now this idea rook takes a7 of course doesn't work, because we take with the bishop, then queen to b6 is not a possibility. And now comes the tricky part of this trap. Now we should simply proceed with the move g3, because if your opponent tries knight takes c8 first, then we have this in between check. It comes with the check, with taking the bishop, and your opponent has to react. Rook takes f2, and now we can simply grab a piece. We're continuing the game with an extra piece, and this should be winning, of course. So that's why in this position, your opponent can play here the move h takes g3, which allows us now, of course, after f takes g3. The problem is when bishop takes g3 happens, then the bishop is deflected from the defense of the knight, and again we can grab a piece. The only move that saves a little bit the situation is the move bishop to e3. But now comes this very dangerous tactic. We have the possibility to play knight to d5. And it seems now that again maybe black has made a mistake, because white has the opportunity to play the move queen to b3. But the main thematic attack in the King's Indian is this move queen to h4 with this checkmate racket on h2. Your opponent can take maybe the knight on d5, but still we can hide with our king to h8, and basically white is lost. White will need now to create some breathing space with some rook to c1 ideas. And again we have a very nice tactical shot. We have the move bishop to h6. If your opponent takes now the bishop, so you see we're sacrificing another piece, then queen to h2, queen to f1, and now queen to h1. It's checkmate. So your opponent would have to retreat somewhere with the bishop. Maybe a better idea is here bishop to b6, but again this dangerous tactic happens. Queen to h2, king to f1, and now this is also a thematic move which you always should consider while playing the King's Indian. It's the move queen to h1 followed with bishop to h3. This is the move that you should always consider in the King's Indian. This is really a thematic attack, as I said. If your opponent takes here the bishop, then we have bishop to e3, attacking the bishop. You would have to try to escape with the king somehow, but now queen takes g1. Bishop to f1 can happen, but now we have the opportunity to push the pawn on g2, and it would be game over. So let's go back. Here in this position, your opponent doesn't need to play this queen to b3 idea. He can play maybe after this knight takes d5 idea, he could play maybe e takes d5. But now white is going to be checkmated, because we have again the same thematic attack, queen to h4. Your opponent has to create some breathing space, queen to h2, king to f1, and now again this very thematic move, bishop to h3, preparing checkmate. You have to do something. You see this bishop is blocked out by this knight, so you cannot escape with the king. That's the main problem. In order to prevent checkmate in one, you could take maybe g takes h3, but now g2 happens, king to f2, and now the discovered check, and with another queen, white is going to be checkmated again. So these are thematic ideas, as I said, after the move here. This is the main tactical shot. After the move knight to b5, just continue to push g4. If your opponent, you see, takes knight takes a7, then g3 wins immediately, and it's game over here for white. Okay, at the end of the video, here is a chess puzzle for you to solve. It's not a checkmate. I don't want to set up this checkmate sequences. I just want you to find the winning continuation here for white. Although white is down a piece, but still this is a winning game for white. Try to solve this chess puzzle, try to play actively with your pieces, include all of the pieces in the attack, and I think you'll solve this chess puzzle very, very easily. Okay, I hope that you enjoyed this trap. We'll continue to follow this series. I hope you enjoyed it. Maybe it's not one of my most viewed lists on my YouTube chess channel, but I'm going to continue. Maybe these videos will help someone, and of course I want to all analyze for myself some opening preparations, maybe in the King's Indian, maybe in some other great openings. And as I said, I'm really hoping that you enjoyed it, because it's really important for me to continue with my educational style in this series, and for sure, as I promised you, we'll have 50 videos in this very, very nice series. Okay, meanwhile, you can watch my other traps that I've analyzed so far. Here is the link, and you can also watch my Basics in Chess series, in which I show you some opening principles, middle game strategies, and the end game strategies. And you can also watch my chess tactics and chess puzzle series videos, in which I show you the common tactical possibilities that can happen to in a chess game. We have also some checkmate patterns here. And you can also subscribe to my channel if you like this content. Thanks you for watching, guys, and chess is the best, of course.